Hi guys, and welcome to my new podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and this is The Mobility Experiment. Some of you probably know me better as the Mobility Tutor on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Just a quick breakdown of what I do. I work with general population clients who want to improve their pain, stiffness, aim to return to running, improve their overall lifestyle. So then we work on routines, habits and different behaviors. And in terms of an athletic population, what I like to do is increase performance through load management, routines, injury prevention and rehab exercises and mobility routines. So I've been meaning to get this podcast up and running for a while, and I'm happy that I am finally getting around to do so. The plan is going to be to discuss topics in a bit more detail. I can elaborate a small bit more on topics that I would bring up on Instagram and Facebook, and it also gives me an opportunity to discuss things that you would like me to talk about. This also gives me a better opportunity to educate you on mobility training, pain, injury rehab and prehab, also lifestyle habits, routines, behaviors and attitudes. In future, I plan to bring on a couple of guests, so even some of my own clients that I would feel that you would get a lot of value from just from listening to their stories, their backgrounds, how they got to where they are today, and then also other guests who are experts in their area. I'm really interested in all different topics, especially with the body and how the body adapts and changes to stress. I feel the body works off of different principles, and one of those is stress and adaptation. Strength and conditioning circles, where you would see it most, are resistance training and people going to the gym. You go for long enough, you stress the body, it adapts, you get stronger, your body composition changes and you get better. This can be applied to a lot of different systems in the body, or nearly every system in the body, I feel. So mobility training to me is actually stressing all these different systems and working them so that they are improving over time. Some systems that I may be talking about are the proprioceptive system, your vestibular system, then your nervous system, your respiratory system, so your breathing, obviously your cardiovascular system as well. The reason I want to focus on this is because I feel a lot of people leave out or neglect other body systems or bodily systems. So body composition is obviously a main one that you see a lot on Instagram. So that's just building muscle, losing fat. But in terms of general life and aging, I think it's important to work on your visual system, your hearing, your respiratory system, so your lungs, which will come with cardio, and your cardiovascular system. But then on top of that, your joints and your vestibular system, which is your balance and your sense of awareness in space, which would be your proprioceptive system. So all of these are interconnected. So basically, one system is not going to work in isolation. They all work on top of each other. So to get the best out of your training, I feel that you should target all of this and take a holistic view or holistic approach to your training. As all these systems are interconnected, the main place you need to look at is going to be your brain. Okay, so your brain is going to be the main organ that is going to be regulating these systems so that they work in conjunction and synergistically with each other. Now, as I said, as stress and adaptation is going to have an effect on the body, it's going to improve the body if you give it enough recovery time. The same principle applies to the brain. So neuroplasticity is actually a term that encapsulates all of what I've mentioned before, and this is basically the brain's ability to adapt and change to new learning. The brain is like plastic in that it does change, it can adapt, it will reform if needed to, and it will reorganize if needed to. A perfect example of this is when somebody has a stroke and they lose their ability to walk, as the motor cortex is affected by the stroke. Through specific exercise and different modalities, we can get them back walking again as the brain reorganizes and readjusts itself to fit the new patterns. This is the second principle I'll talk about a lot, is that if the brain can do that for motor learning, it can do it for any type of learning. So how can you optimize so that your brain changes and adapts to your new learning and your new stress or stimulus and adaptation? So this is just going to be a small bit that I will talk about in further episodes, and I would hope to get on experts who have a better base of knowledge than me on this and really tease out exactly what you can do to optimize your body systems and what you can do to really improve your lifestyle. But the main focus of today's episode is going to be on what is mobility training, what's involved in it, how is mobility affected, and why should you start working on mobility. And the last thing is, how are you actually going to improve your mobility today? So mobility, by definition, is the ability to move or be moved freely and easily. You'll find a lot in training circles that it's primarily associated with joint range of motion, and then some people actually confuse it with a term of flexibility, and flexibility is more so your muscle's ability to lengthen or stretch. Although a certain degree of flexibility will be needed in mobility training, you really want to build strength through that range so it becomes an active component and that you can use that in active range of motion. An active range of motion, which is the range that you can move, so how high you can lift your hip by just using the muscles around your hip, as opposed to how much you can passively lift it, which is having someone else lift it up yourself, or you just stretching it out. So there's multiple different forms of mobility training and different practices such as functional range, conditioning. The ready state would be another one. That'd be mobility WOD. It'd be Kelly Starrett that came up with that. Dr. Andre Ospina would have come up with functional range systems. But I feel the end goal should be to improve one's ability to move freely and without pain. So to achieve this, you must have control of your body through a movement or during a movement, such as running, jumping, crawling, or climbing. So what does it involve exactly? And I touched on a bit of this earlier on, and there is so many different paths you can take, but I feel the primary aspects or primary components of any mobility program should be strength and power, so you can control and stabilize your limbs and torso as you move. Balance is another component that's commonly left out, as it doesn't directly affect the joints range of motion, but you will find that if you improve your balance, that this will tie into everything else that you can do. So some form of proprioceptive, breathing, and vestibular work. Vestibular is your sense of balance, or it's a particular system inside your inner ear. And then proprioceptive is your body's awareness in space. Breathing then is massively important, as you can consciously control your breathing, and it is directly connected to your brain and to your state of mind. So just in athletic terms, if you're working on your movement capability, the aim is, as I mentioned earlier, to make the necessary neuroplastic changes in your brain for the movements to actually happen synergistically. So what that means is that if you're training and doing isolation exercises all the time in the gym, when you actually get out on the field, this won't directly translate over or transfer over, as the brain or nervous system hasn't needed to adapt to this. It will adapt to it in the situation or in the isolation exercise, in that you will improve your range on that exercise. But if you haven't practiced certain movements, you won't be able to transfer that over to the new environment, which is on the field, such as a cut or when you're landing from a jump, stuff like that. So how is mobility affected, or how do you start to lose your mobility as you age? The main way that the majority of us are actually going to lose our mobility is typically just through non-use. As you get older, as you get used to different patterns that you fall into every day, daily patterns, going to work, let's say, sitting in a car, going up the stairs, down the stairs, even in the gym, just squatting and deadlifting. All these are very specific movements, but if you limit yourself to these movements all the time, your body will adapt to that, and it won't feel the need to keep your range outside of these movements. So if you do that, then what you can get is an increase in pain sensitivity when you try to get outside of this range. So let's say you move into a position that you wouldn't be used to, such as an overhead shoulder position. You'll find that you will get pain will start kicking up, and it's not directly related to an injury, but it's more to do with the fact that you haven't got into this range enough, so the brain feels unsafe in this position. And if the brain feels unsafe, it will create the sensation of pain as a protective mechanism. Now, pain can be related to a lot of other things, and I'll discuss this in different episodes as we go down. We will go into more detail on this. But general pain through increasing your range is primarily due to this. So why should you start working on your mobility today, or why would you need to start working on it? You're already going to the gym, you're improving your cardiovascular fitness, you're improving your strength, you may have some stress management routines. So one thing you don't want to neglect is going to be something that you will need as you get older, is your ability to move. So movement and mobility training is actually going to help nourish the joints by increasing blood flow and promoting circulation of synovial fluid around the area. So what is synovial fluid exactly? So synovial fluid is a fluid that is used to lubricate the joints, and it brings nutrients to the cartilage. So as you age, you will hear of such conditions as osteoarthritis, which I'll go into more detail in another episode. This synovial fluid is going to reduce the effects of wear and tear. Wear and tear is related to osteoarthritis, or it's one thing related to osteoarthritis. Furthermore, as I said earlier, it can regulate the nervous system as it improves your bodily awareness. So this is mobility training we're talking about, and it reduces your pain sensitivity around the joint. This is what's going to help you get back into your pain-free movement and pain-free ranges again. So how do you improve your mobility? The easiest thing you can do, and the first thing I'll tell all my clients to do, is as much general movement as possible. So you isolate the area, then you start getting as much movement into it as you can. If it's overhead position, let's say, I want you swinging out your shoulders. I want you rolling around your shoulders, coming into push-up positions, trying to stretch them overhead as much as possible. Not holding stretches, just moving in and out of the position. Now with that, you're going to have to really focus on your breath work as well. So if you're breathing heavy or you're breathing fast, you're going to send stress signals to the brain. What this will do is it will cause it to go into protective mode, and it's going to protect these areas. You're going to get a lot more pain. Now there's a lot more things you can do, but for anyone who's here and listening to this now, I would ask you to, what they say is, explore the corners or explore the way you move. If you find that dropping into a squat is, so your groins are affected or your hamstrings or your glutes are affected, as you drop into the squat, hold in a couple of seconds, see what's really kicking up, and from there you want to get your breath work right. So you're relaxing into the position and you're giving the body enough sensory information so it's able to figure out what's going wrong and let it fix itself. The body is going to optimize for itself. This is why biomechanics are different for everybody. Body position, bone length, bony abnormalities, bone shape, muscle length, muscle shape, muscle strength. It's all different for everybody. So to say that there is one optimal way to move would be completely incorrect. Let the body figure out what's best for you. The best way to do that is put it in positions that it has to figure that out. And this is where my clients come to me and they say, what is the best way to do this? And all I do is put them through challenges and different positions, different strengthening exercises, optimize different movements, let the body and the nervous system figure it out themselves, because it's going to figure it out a lot better than what I will be able to tell you what to do. Now I can help you work around pain, and I can help you rehab injuries and improve specific mobility areas or areas that you're getting stuck on. But first I'd ask everybody to get into positions, let the body optimize itself and let it figure it all out. That's where it comes back to this neuroplastic change, in that if you get enough sensory systems working, and if it feels that this is the most important thing right now, your brain will reorganize and adapt and will let you into that position. So in conclusion, guys, mobility training is going to be a multifactorial form of exercise, and it includes all elements of physical training, taking a holistic approach to movement, listening to your body and letting your body figure out how to optimize itself can be the best way to get yourself in prime condition and moving pain-free again. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you took some value from that. If you could, I would love if you could subscribe to me, and I will be hoping to get an episode out per week, and we might increase that then as time goes on. So I'm excited to see how this develops and how it changes over time. If anyone has any questions, guys, just get in contact with me through Instagram, or you can email me at mobilitytutor@gmail.com, and my website is mobilitytutor.com. Also guys, I would love if you could add a rating to this, and if you would please share to a friend. That would help me out a massive amount. Alright, I'll chat to you all next week. Have a good week. Thanks for dropping by, and I will see you all soon.